you said, because if you're waiting because you think, oh, by waiting, I'm going to get a spouse, statistically speaking, you actually lower your chances. So I think there's a pattern that we see here that we're tending to miss, whether it's Heather Lindsay's conferences, whether it's Devon and Meagan's book, whether it's Ciaras' prayer. Everyone is trying to find some perfect blueprint
formula.
And it's like, yo, stop looking for this perfect formula. Go to God's word.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. So I'm introducing you guys to a new series, and it's called the Intimacy series. And this is where I have interviews and conversations with other people who are also transparent and open and honest. I want this channel to be a place where we can all be open, all be transparent, all share experiences, because nothing in life is perfect, okay? No matter how we glam ourselves up, no matter how great our hair looks, nobody's life is perfect. So I want to start a series called the Intimacy series. So today I'm so excited to have a special guest called Cyrus, and many of you may be familiar with him, maybe you're not, but after this interview you're definitely going to be familiar with him. We had a great conversation. He mentioned so many things that I even wanted to mention. It was a great conversation. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys. So I am with the amazing Cyrus. If you don't mind, introduce yourself. Actually, let me tell you how I came across him. I actually came across him in 2020 during lockdown, and you got a podcast, right? You had a podcast.
Yes. I'm revamping it, rebranding it right now to be re-released in 2 weeks.
Right. And I came across you was talking about like some Christian topics, and it was refreshing to hear a male perspective that wasn't necessarily bashing women, which was happening all during lockdown. So I came across you then. And then my best friend sent me his video, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, this is such an important topic that I want to talk about. So introduce yourself, and then we're going to get straight into it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So my name is Cyrus. I am by day, I'm a solutions engineer. I'm a tech nerd, basically. I work with a tech company from home. By night, I am a certified relationship counselor. I've been counseling relationships, couples for the past decade. I've spoken on well over 200 conferences, panels. I've currently matchmade and put together 11 married couples that are still married to this day.
Damn.
And many other like just dating, romantic relationships, engagements that are still engaged, leading towards marriage. So I've been in the trenches with this for a long time, primarily in the Christian space. But also just in more broad secular spaces as well, having these conversations.
Amazing. That's very good to know someone that's actually qualified to talk about what they're talking about. That's amazing. So I'm going to put on the screen the video that I'm talking about, but we're going to listen to it over again, just to kind of refresh our memory, and then I'm going to ask you some questions based on it. Okay.
I'm about to tell y'all something that's about to blow y'all's minds. So this is why I'm so hard against purity culture right now. The biggest reason, every single session I've done with married women, except for one woman, every single session I've done with married women, half of them waited until marriage before they even kissed. Each of these women, they scheduled sessions because they're right now fighting to not leave their husbands. One of the major reasons these women are desiring to leave their husbands, one of the reasons, but it's like the biggest reason, is because of their husband's lack of sexual desire for them. So, for example, the last married woman that I spoke to, her issue is that she's like, hey, my husband, like, we have sex maybe once a month. And she said every time they have sex, she has to initiate. Now, understand, each of these women, when I spoke to them about their relationship leading up to the marriage, the conversation was, okay, well, what was romance like? What was intimacy like? Like, was there any touching, any kissing? Was there any sign that there was a romantic or a physical, even sexual desire? Not necessarily sex, obviously, but was there any signs that this man desired you? And the thing that these women, what they told me, each of them had told me down the line was, no, there wasn't. And they thought that was a reason to marry the men. They were like, oh my God, that made them overlook all the other red flags these husbands or these men have. They thought because these men were so great at not kissing them until marriage, they thought because these men were showed zero desire They thought because these men showed zero desire for any physical, intimate interactions, they thought that was a sign that those men loved them or loved Jesus. When in reality, it was a sign that those men just don't have a desire. They're almost asexual. So this is a conversation that's not being had. People are praising the men who are easily going without having sex, or even the men that are saying, hey, yeah, I'm cool with waiting until marriage to not kiss. I actually desire to do that. Now, again, I'm not saying that's the case for every man who wants to wait until marriage to kiss. But what I am saying is every single married woman I've done a session with, they've been scheduling sessions except for one. All of them have scheduled sessions. And the number one issue in their marriage is their husbands who were so incredibly pure, who weren't kissing all on them, who didn't tempt them. And they thought, oh my God, this man is so godly. When now they realize, oh snap, this man don't even like women, which is the case for some women. And so we have these conversations about wanting to champion, oh wow, these guys love Jesus so much because they're waiting until marriage to kiss. That's no barometer of how much somebody loves Jesus. So again, we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful. Very careful. So this is why I'm on this topic so heavy. I'm not on this topic because I care if an individual person, if you want to wait until marriage to kiss, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's totally cool. But I'm here to educate, to make sure, hey, you're aware with the possibilities of, especially ladies, if you're dating men, attracting men, and these men are like, yeah, I actually want to wait until marriage to kiss too. I'm not saying that's a red flag. I'm saying it's a yellow flag. I'm saying it's a caution sign. Don't look at it automatically like a green flag, like, oh my God, I prayed for this. Jesus has brought me what I prayed for. But also don't look at it necessarily as a red flag, but look at it like a yellow flag, a caution flag. You know, really unpack. Okay, why? Like, okay, are you holding off on doing this because your sex drive is so high and you're trying to make sure because you think if we kiss, you just gonna go all in? That's actually a good thing. It's like, okay, cool. That's a really good reason, Playboy, for you to not want to do that, because you fear what'll happen, because you've seen in your past how you've given in. If that's not the case, if the case is because he's just like, oh, well, I just decided to do this, years ago because I love Jesus so much and I don't think I should. That's a yellow flag. Again, I ain't gonna say red flag. It's a yellow flag. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Make sure you like him for him and not because he's doing this super duper spiritual thing that just seems so romantic to you. Because the last thing you want to do is marry him just because it's like, oh snap, I've been struggling to find a man who will wait until marriage to kiss. I found one. This must be my husband. And you overlook all the other red flags and issues. What I'm saying is that is not something that should make or break you dating someone to marriage. That is an extremely dumb thing to say, oh, I'm not going to date this person because they want to kiss. It's extremely dumb.
Well, that is heavy. That's a heavy topic, and something a lot of women don't even consider, because like you said, there's like finding a guy in this day and age that wants to remain abstinent until marriage, or not even kiss until marriage, is like finding a unicorn. So I think when women do find it, they're like, wow, a godly person. Because I think that some women equate, let's say, self-control or a man's ability to wait until marriage or not struggle with lust as godliness, right? They see it as like, this person is an actual Christian. But I think one thing that I've definitely been learning and learned over the years is that men are different from women. I think for women, and I've always said this, by the way, I was celibate for 11 years, from 2007 to 2018. And so I've been on both sides of it. I'm celibate again, by the way, but I've been on both sides of it. And it's like, I feel like women being celibate and men being celibate is two different ball games. I think it's a lot easier for women to be celibate than it is for men to be celibate. Not impossible, but I do feel like it's easier for women. So when women kind of look down on men or look at men like why can't he just, I think it's important to acknowledge that we are very much different. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
definitely. Yeah. So I mean, we could look at it from a couple angles. We could look at it from a biblical, spiritual angle. We also could look at it just biologically, like it's been, and I encourage people to research things, but it's biologically proven by and large that men desire sex 3 to 6 times more than women desire. Now, of course, we're speaking generally. We're speaking about the masses. There are individual cases where there are some women that are like, no, I've desired sex more than any man that I've been with.
I know women like that.
That definitely happens. But of course, those are the exceptions. Just like there's the exception that there are some men that don't have a high sex drive. But speaking about what's the norm, which is really what matters, we're talking about the norm. Speaking about the norm, men desire sex immensely more than women do. And that's just because our wiring, we are wired differently. We're wired in that particular way. It's kind of similarly in the same vein, women desire marriage and family and stability more than men desire it. Right. And so men, I know sometimes women, and I've seen this, just like you mentioned, there'll be women, particularly either women that are in the church or women that are trying to abstain, that to them, it doesn't seem that hard. And they don't understand. They're like, why do these men, like, why are they so obsessed with sex? Why don't they love God more? But on the reverse, men are like, okay, why are these women so obsessed with marriage? Like, why are they so idolizing marriage? Why don't they love God more to where they're not so pressed over it? But the thing is, both of those are godly things. Sex is a God-given desire. Satan didn't give us a desire for sex. So of course, we're going to desire sex a lot. But on the flip side, marriage is a godly thing. Satan does not care for marriage at all. That's a godly thing. But the thing is that our wiring is different, to where men naturally desire to breed with the beauty of their woman, and women naturally desire to create family because they want to be able to nurture, take care of their husband, take care of their children. It's the way that we're wired. And each side is looking at the other side, basically saying, why aren't you more like me? When in reality, we should be grateful that we're different, because that's the way that God designed us to be different.
Right. Definitely. And so I guess women, they meet a man and that person is like, yes, I agree. Well, finally you meet the man and he's like, yes, I agree. Let's wait until we're married. We're not going to do this, set the boundaries, blah, 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 blah. How can a woman be sure then that a man does desire her and he does have self-control, and it's not just, well, I am asexual? Or can you kind of break down a little bit what it means to be asexual?
Yeah, so essentially, and this is a basic explanation of asexual. Asexual is essentially someone who they just don't care for sex that much. Usually people that are asexual, they tend to be women. There are more asexual women than there are asexual men. Essentially women who they might be wives. They'll have sex with their husbands because their husband wants to have sex, but they could go without sex. They could go without sex for the rest of their lives. There are some men that are like that as well. And then there are some men, plenty of men, that typically find themselves in the church where secretly they're struggling with homosexual desires. No shade to those men, because we all have different struggles, but they're secretly struggling with homosexual desires. They're not going to broadcast that, because they know no woman is going to want to be with them, especially if we're speaking women of color. Women of color are not going to be with a man where he's dealing with some type of suspect desires. So those men are going to suppress those desires, keep it a secret, not tell the woman that they're dating. The woman is thinking, oh my gosh, this man just doesn't, he loves God so much that he's fine with waiting. Realistically, the guy, it's easy for him to wait because he's not really attracted to her sexually in that way, or as intensely as a heterosexual man would be. And so it happens time and time again. People don't realize how often this happens. There are a lot of pastors. I'm not going to name any names. There are a lot of pastors that I'm very familiar with, that I know behind the scenes. I've spoken to them and they've confessed, admitted to me and others. And these are very famous, popular ministers where they've admitted that they have these desires. I've had pastors hit on me. I've had pastors hit on other gospel artists, Christian poets, people that I know that people would never know. Like, and this would bring all their stuff down. And so, but many of these pastors are championed because it's known, oh, wow, these pastors, they either waited until marriage to kiss, or they were so serious about setting these very beautiful boundaries, and it sounds romantic. It's just like reading a romance novel where it's like, oh my God, this man loved the woman so much. He was willing to slay the dragon, and he was willing to put his life at risk for her. And many times it sounds attractive, but it's like, realistically speaking, it's like, it's not as beautiful as it seems. There's other things behind the curtain that people don't tend to see. Now, I do want to say there are some, and I have some homeboys that I know are not asexual that are married, and they waited until marriage to kiss. But they agreed with the video that I put out. They saw the video, and their wives saw the video. And they said, we waited until marriage to kiss, but we completely agree with this video that people shouldn't make this a hard rule. It's great if it happens, if it's something that you want, but you should be very careful to not make it a hard rule, especially because God never made this a rule. And when we start to create rules that extend beyond God's rule, essentially what we're saying is that God's standard isn't enough, that we need a standard that's greater than God's standard. And like you were mentioning earlier, it's not just a unicorn to find a man who's waiting until marriage to kiss. It's a unicorn to find a man who's waiting until marriage for sex. So to put an additional standard on top of that standard, and people don't realize, I try to be careful when I talk about stuff like this, but God is not cool with that. He's addressed that in the Bible, even with the Pharisees. Jesus's primary issue with the Pharisees was that they tried to create religious rules that were even more strict than the laws in the Old Testament, than God's law. So the Pharisees said, hey, we know God says this, but we're going to make an even stricter law. And Jesus said, and Jesus said, yo, you're putting a yoke on people that my Father never put on them. You're making it harder for them.
And you can't even keep yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And my encouragement to people is, hey, like, don't put a yoke. Why are you making it harder for yourself? You're making it harder for yourself. And God is like, hey, I'm trying to send you a blessing in the form of a husband, in the form of a wife, but you're creating these additional standards that aren't even in my standards. Right. And then you're going to be mad at God when it doesn't come to fruition. But God is like, I never said that. That was what you wanted. I never said in my word, wait until marriage to kiss. Never said that. That's something that become popularized around this recent time, and everybody wants that now, but they don't realize behind the curtain some of the downsides of that.
Right. So that brings me into talking about purity culture, because you're saying that your video was about waiting to kiss before marriage.
Yeah, essentially it was about that, and it also was about purity culture as a whole. So I want to be clear, because some people don't understand when I say I have a problem with purity culture.
Can you explain that?
Purity is cool. Purity is great. Purity is godly. Purity culture is an entirely different thing. It's just like hip hop is cool. Like rap music is cool. Hip hop is cool. The break dancing, the DJs playing music. Hip hop is cool. Hip hop culture is toxic. Hip hop culture degrades women. Hip hop culture promotes violence amongst like men who look the same. Hip hop culture is toxic. Hip hop itself is pretty cool. And that's the same thing in terms of purity. Purity is great. Purity is godly. Purity culture is a multi-million-dollar brand that people don't know.
Wow.
Until I actually became a solutions engineer, my background, I lived off of purity culture. 90% of my speaking engagements were people that were putting on purity conferences and purity events.
Wow.
And which is cool. Nothing's wrong with those events in and of themselves, but people don't realize when profit is the end goal of these things, it's not sincere. It's not genuine. Things get really weird behind the scenes. And so with purity culture, I've gone to conferences, and I mean, 90% of those women that were at those conferences to this day, I mean, a decade later, are not just like not married. They feel very scarred because they passed up on good men back then, good godly men. They passed up on godly men because the purity culture told them to have all these extra standards. Purity culture told them, no, if a man isn't praying this long, or if the man isn't waiting until marriage to kiss, or if the man can't quote this many scriptures, or it lays out these rules. And I've seen women pass up on men, godly men, for ridiculous reasons. And now I speak to many of those women in my sessions, and they're like, man, and we go through the list of men they met and men they passed up, and they realize I passed up on him because I thought he wasn't godly enough or pure enough. But now that guy's married to a woman, and they have a godly marriage, and they're building God's kingdom. And it's like, man, so my heart is to protect people. It's to like, yo, like, just stop making it hard for yourself, because you can
Right.
miss out on some amazing blessings.
Right. So my definition, or how I would explain purity culture, is man's attempt to try and live out what the Bible says, right? And it's their
That's good.
standards, it's the way that we try and interpret it. And the person that comes to mind when I think about purity culture is Heather Lindsay. And I grew up, I've been saved since 2007. So I grew up on Heather Lindsay. Honestly, I love that lady. Like, I love her.
You know,
so much.
Heather's good people. She's good people.
Yeah, I love, and obviously I'm in the UK, you're in the US. Like, I can love people from afar. I don't know anything about you, but I can admire you and the standard, because I think when I first got saved, there wasn't a lot of women talking about real stuff. And that's why I really admired Heather Lindsay and for what she was doing. However, as I grew older and I got more experience, I guess, in life and in dating, when you talk about like ridiculous rules, okay, this is the thing. What Heather Lindsay talked about worked for her, right? But my issue with her sometimes was that...
Did it work for her?
Okay, wait. Let's get there. Wait, let me get there.
Yeah, I'll let you get, yeah.
Okay. I feel like Heather Lindsay preached her life experience as gospel, as Bible, right? If you want to get married, do X, Y, Z, and the third. And women, you have women like, I did that and I'm still not married. I did all those things and I still don't have the godly husband. So what's going on? And then some people get jaded, you know, they leave the faith, or they kind of start questioning things, and they're like, this doesn't work for me. And they start, and there was also a level of being, feeling bound by these ideas that, and I'm saying Heather Lindsay, but there was obviously other people out there as well that also followed in her footsteps. So I'm not blaming one person. However, the rhetoric of it left a lot of women, I guess, ashamed of their sexuality, ashamed that they were, you know, horny, ashamed that they had these feelings, ashamed. Do you know what I mean? It brought more shame than it brought freedom. And I think that's one of the big issues with purity culture. And I say that to, speaking about Heather Lindsay and purity culture, I came across a blog post that she had written. I think it was a blog post or something that her husband Cornelius had written. Either way, it was like during so they wait until they married. And for those who don't know, they wait until they were married to kiss, which was, when they first said it, was unheard of.
And Cornelius suggested it. He suggested it initially. Okay,
right. And so anyway, I came across the blog post, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong in saying this, but I do remember this, that he talked about his struggle with pornography during that period. But that came after the fact that they promoted that they waited until they were married to kiss. So to me, looking from the outside, it seemed like, they didn't have any problems. It was so easy. And it's like, I understand like celibacy and waiting till marriage and stuff like that. And I understand having a testimony. And I think having a testimony is great because it shows that you went through tests. However, if you don't share the test that came with the testimony, people are looking up to you like, well, why can't I do it? What's wrong with me? Why am I so imperfect? Do you know what I mean? Why can't I do this thing right? She did it. He did it. There's clearly something internally wrong with me.
So my response to that is a few things. So first, let me say so Cornelius used to be one of my mentors. And we had a pretty good relationship, pretty solid. So let me say that. I'll start off by saying, first off, everything isn't, as I said earlier, everything is not the way it looks behind the scenes. Now, I don't want that to sound more nefarious than what it is.
It's true.
They
from everything.
They love God. They care deeply about people. Their intention was right. They had good intentions initially. Things change. We have flesh. We're humans. Money matters to us. So I'm not going to say everything. But even in terms of the purity stuff, there are reasons outside of him loving God so much that that them waiting until marriage to kiss wasn't that hard of a thing.
Right.
I'm not going to say too much about it,
but
I'll say something Heather has shared.
Okay.
Heather has shared this. I'm not sure if she shared it in one of her books because I haven't read any of her books. I read some of Cornelius's books, but I've heard Heather share this publicly at conferences. Heather has said before that on the first night, their first night being married, they did not have sex. He did not try to have sex with her their first night being married. And the next day, she nagged him the entire day saying, we're not even technically married. Like, she was upset that he didn't sleep with her. She was like, how do we go all this time without kissing? And then the very night we're able to have sex, you don't even try to have sex with me. And then, of course, in her story, she said after that they started having sex. But again, highlighting, and I'm not gonna go too deep into the weeds of their business and things like that, because they've only been good to me. So I want to be honest in a way that's protecting people, but I also want to be careful to not act as if I ever saw them do anything foul or anything wrong. But what I do know that is factual is that he was not trying to have sex their first night. What I also know, and this is what many of their leaders used to push, was that they're against married couples doing oral sex. They're against oral sex within marriage, which goes against scripture. If you read Songs of Solomon, and if anybody's able to understand the metaphors, he addresses oral sex between him and his partner in Songs of Solomon, addressing his partners, addressing her like her woman areas is like a flower and him blowing into her flowers. And so there was a lot of like language and metaphors around that within Songs of Solomon. But that being said, again, things are not as cracked up as they seem. As they seem. And so my thing though is that there's an issue that Christians tend to have. And so I put partial blame on them because Heather didn't necessarily say, hey ladies, you need a man who's going to wait until marriage to kiss, but she promoted their story as if it was like the thing. So she never directly said, ladies, you need to do this. Nevertheless, when you put something in a book, you sell it, you tell this beautiful story, it makes people want that. Like people, because all of us compare, like, you know, women are like, no, I want a man who's at least going to do what her man did. Cause I don't want to feel like I had to settle and get a man who ain't want to wait till marriage to kiss. And so so she was wrong for promoting it as much as she did.
I think she romanticized it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she told the story, romanticized it. It helped some people. It hurt more people than it helped, but she probably didn't know any better at the time. But I actually want to flip it around. So again, I'm not saying this in defense of them. They have a thousand issues that I'm not even going to air out right now. But I want to flip and put the blame on many people in the Christian community. And I've said this before, whether we're talking about Heather and Cornelius, whether we're talking about Devon and Meagan, whether we're talking about Ciara and Russell, there is a idolatry when it comes to these Christian relationships. Now, cool. Let's celebrate it. Let's be like, oh, wow, let's use it as hope, but let's not use it as a standard. Because I mean, let's look at the pattern. Yeah, Heather told a story about a man waiting until marriage to kiss. And automatically everybody said, oh, I want a man who's going to wait until marriage to kiss. Similarly, Devon and Meagan, they put out a story, The Wait, about their story, about how they met, about how she was basically this woman who wasn't really like walking with God seriously. And then he came and changed all of that. And then it created this narrative where a lot of men wanted a girl like Meagan, thinking, oh, I can turn a sex symbol into a housewife. And some women thinking, oh, wow, yeah, so you can get with somebody and they can just flip things around. Now the news recently came out that they're divorcing, and it hasn't even been a month, and Meagan Good has been seen like flaunting how fine she is,
living her best life.
Yeah, so she's living her best life, and I support that. But on the flip side, everyone's saying how, oh, now that they're divorcing, she no longer cares about keeping up that godly image. Which the irony, it shows how that image wasn't really for her and God. That image was it basically is showing how she never changed. That marriage didn't actually like change her. She was just doing what she needed to do to get along. But I also want to address Ciara and Russell Wilson, how everyone is like, Ciara, what's the prayer? What's the prayer? What's the prayer? So I think there's a pattern that we see here that we're tending to miss, whether it's Heather Lindsey's conferences, whether it's Devon and Meagan's book, whether it's Ciara's prayer, everyone is trying to find some perfect blueprint
formula.
And it's like, yo, stop looking for this perfect formula. Go to God's word. Yeah, we encourage each other, give wisdom. But again, wisdom doesn't say there's a perfect blueprint. Wisdom is beneficial case by case scenarios.
Right. It's individual.
So instead of looking for these books, instead of looking for these conferences, instead of looking for specific prayers, no, we need to look for God's word. We need to look for community, and we need to date intentionally, but be able to vet people properly. And again, that's one of the issues that people tend to have, men and women. People are terrible at vetting. So that's why so many women have married men who are willing to wait until marriage to kiss. And because all they were looking at is how those men matched up to some book they read. They're like, oh, cool, he matches up to the book that I read. They're overlooking the fact that, okay, wait, this man doesn't have a lot of bass in his voice. You know, this man, you know, he has some kind of feminine tendencies, whatever. But it's like, oh no, but maybe it's because he loves God, whatever. The other factor to look at, and this is where I'm probably I might sound rude, I don't know, but I've come to realize that in order to have real conversations, you have to say some things that could probably make people uncomfortable.
Do it. I do it all the time on the channel.
I did a poll recently on my page, because when I first put up a post about the whole kissing thing, and I didn't know I was going to get so much backlash initially. So I realized there were a lot of primarily women who were like, no, we want a man who's going to wait till marriage to kiss. And I was like, okay, cool. So there were a few men in my comments, who supported and said, yeah, ladies, there are men like us who are waiting until marriage to kiss. So of course, all the women are liking those guys' comments saying, see, Cyrus, see, here are perfect examples. I decided to do a little bit of a test. I did a poll in my story, and I did a poll asking men to vote. I said, men vote and let me know if you're the kind of man. It was a 4-way poll. It said, are you the kind of man who wants to wait until marriage to kiss? Are you a kind of man who's willing to wait until marriage to kiss for the right woman? Or are you a man who you're not going to wait until marriage to kiss? Like, you just not. The vast majority of men, about 90% of the men said they're not waiting until marriage to kiss, no matter what a woman says. It was over 400 people voted on the poll. Only four men voted that they want to wait until marriage to kiss.
Wow.
So then let's go further. Now, this is where I sound rude, but we have to be real. I went to each of those guys' pages. I found the best picture I could find of each of those guys. I screenshot. I did a 4-way picture of all of the men, and I posted the men in my story. Now, mind you, I've shouted out plenty of men. When I shout men out, guys hit me up and say, bro, I've had like 200, 300 women follow me. A lot of women have been messaging me, trying to get to know me. They're like, this is incredible. I posted these 4 guys. Like, whenever I've posted any guys, even if it's just one of my homeboys in a picture, 30, 40 DMs from women. Who is that? Is he single? Oh my gosh. Because I try to hang with men that I feel like are quality, attractive, competent men. Like, I just try to be around men like that. I posted these 4 guys and I said, hey, ladies, all these men, they're single. These are the men who said they're willing to wait until marriage to kiss. They're godly. They're doing all of these things. Hit me up if you want to talk to these guys. I had, for all 4 of those men, I had 3 women hit me up. That's 3 good. Women hit me up. But guess what I had? 3 hit me up. I had over 50 DMs from women who were laughing, saying, what in the world? They say I would not want to talk to those guys. Now, people might get in their feelings, be like, oh no, that's rude, that's harmful. What I did that to paint a picture, because it's like, look, there are some men who are straight, who love God, and want to wait until marriage to kiss. Those men are not the men y'all want to date.
Yeah.
They're not the men y'all want to date. But guess what? The men that typically women do want to date, and I don't judge anybody for liking what they like. I believe there is a reason why women desire men who are attractive, who dress nice, who are competent, who are like successful, who might be a certain height. At least they're not like short. I'm completely fine with women wanting what they want, and I celebrate that.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why those men are the quickest to basically give women whatever they want. It's because they don't have a lot of women who want them. So at this point, they're like, yeah, they'll jump through any hoop
to do whatever it takes.
but the kind of men who are attractive, godly, they dress nice, they're successful, they're driven, their work ethic is incredible, all of those different things. Those men, they realize what they bring to the table. They realize they're a quality great man. And they're like, yo, and I'm willing to wait until marriage for sex, or at least strive to, and I love God. Those men have so many women who are godly, who are wonderful, who are beautiful, that are like, oh, I would love to be with you. And those women are definitely going to want to kiss them. The way that men think, they're not going to pass up on that woman for a woman that says, nope, you got to wait until marriage to kiss me. They're going to be like, I have 50 other women that love God just as much as you do, that are just as pretty, just as nice, and they want to kiss me. I'm going to go with one of those women instead. And so my heart is to tell women like, yo, I want women, I want men, I want everyone to have the best option that they can have in a spouse.
Yeah.
Don't cut off options. And then you wonder why you don't have any options, or you wonder why the only two options you have are dwarfs who are cool working and stocking shelves at Walmart.
Well, not your type, basically.
Yeah. Thank you for stopping me, because I was probably gonna sound rude. So for everybody who's watching this, I'm a Marine. I served in the Marine Corps for 6 years. I served during wartime. How
old are you?
I'm 32. So yeah, I've served during wartime. I'm from Chicago. So I might sound a little like rough or direct. But it's my background. Trust me, I'm less direct than I used to be because of Jesus.
But it's good. It's good. It is good. I would just say this one thing: like, if it is your conviction not to kiss into your wedding, then that's fine. Find someone like that. Me personally, where I am right now, I can't say where I'll be when I'm ready to get married. But where I am right now, I'm finna kiss. Okay.
Yeah. So one, I agree with that. If it's a serious conviction you have, I also encourage, if someone, let's say it's a conviction you have, or at least you think it's a conviction, but you're not able to find anyone who's willing, I encourage you to maybe get some type of counseling or therapy to determine, because sometimes people think something's a conviction, but really it's psychological. It's something that happened when they were younger. Either one, all of the men that you might have dealt with, as soon as you kissed them, they were just trying to get in your pants. Or again, it's this princess ideology that says, oh, well, I think it's a conviction, but really deep down, it's more so you want to feel like your worth is shown because this man was willing to wait until marriage to kiss. And again, that's a form of idolatry. That's a form of wanting to prop yourself up so you can tell everybody how this man waited until marriage to kiss you. So if your reason to want to wait until marriage to kiss is because honestly you're scared that you just gonna bust it wide open, then yeah, wait until marriage to kiss.
Yes, then it comes down to self-control, then isn't it?
Yes.
And knowing your limits, knowing your triggers, knowing your boundaries. And I think that's wisdom, right? Wisdom is, like you said before, personal, right? I'm not going to do this because I know if this guy starts kissing my neck, then I'm ready to get on. Like, your triggers, right? So you can therefore say, this is why I'm creating a boundary. It's not because Heather Lindsay did it or Meagan Good did it. It's because I know myself, and I don't want to fall into temptation. I don't want to have to, get up, repent. I'm actually doing this, and it makes sense. And I think it's a conviction and it's wisdom when you can explain to somebody that has no idea, and actually confidently explain to them why you've made this decision. If you cannot, I remember my sister was getting married to her husband, and her husband asked her, why do you want to marry me? He didn't say it like that, but he was like, why do you want to marry me? And she was like, well, the Bible says, and he goes, no, I'm not having that. I'm not having the answer. Why do you want to get married? And she was like, it forced her to actually like, well, why do I want to get married? And I think it's important that we actually question why we want to do certain things, right? Yeah. And like you said, the whole holy, like, it's almost like holy and thou. Oh, so me and my husband, like, you almost want to sell a fairy tale. You want to sell a story.
Yeah, you do.
You want to get a pat on the back and say, well done, you holy and righteous one. Like, do you want to
post it on Instagram and get 1,000 likes and have everybody comment and say, wow, I want what you have.
Right. Right. And it's definitely important to identify why you're doing it. And we kind of talked about a few things that I wanted to talk about. However, I'll go back to it. And obviously, we know Meagan Good and Devon Franklin divorced recently. Yeah. And I saw on Twitter, there was a lot of women like, why did I buy her book? If they if they got divorced, like what hope is there for us? I'm just going to be doing hot girl summer, all this kind of stuff. And it just kind of goes to kind of prove our point. Like, why did you choose celibacy? Because a book told you. I actually bought The Wait. I didn't even read it. I mean, I was already waiting, but I didn't read it because there was nothing. Okay, there's a few things. When you try to profit off of principles of the Bible, I kind of have a problem with it. And I say profit in the way that you try and make it seem like, yes, it's a godly principle, but this is how you can use it to gain self-control and da-da-da-da. I don't know why, but I have a problem with people using the Bible to make money. However, there are wealthy people that use the Bible, principles of the Bible, and they profit and they make money. That's fine. However, you as a Christian, like our motivation for doing things as Christians is to honor God first, period, right? Secondary is the benefits that it benefits us, right? Mm-hmm. When you take the benefits of what it will benefit a human and say, well, everyone can wait. I have a problem with it because your heart is not in the right place. You're not waiting till marriage because that's what the Bible says. You're waiting till marriage because you want to get a husband. You want to get a reward. You want to get this. You want to get that. You want what Meagan Good and Devon Franklin have. That's why you're waiting till marriage.
Yeah, I'll say something that this isn't going to sound good, but it's the truth. The majority of people that are married today did not wait until marriage for sex.
Thank you very much.
So, and I say that not to encourage people to start having sex, but to help people analyze why they're waiting, like you said, because if you're waiting because you think, oh, by waiting, I'm going to get a spouse, statistically speaking, you actually lower your chances of getting a spouse by waiting. So waiting is not the way to get a spouse. Waiting is a way to honor God. Like straight up. Now there are other benefits, like you said, there are secondary benefits to waiting, just like there are secondary benefits to honoring God in other areas of our lives. There are other benefits, but in this particular topic of waiting until marriage for sex and thinking that's what's going to give you a healthy, successful marriage, Meagan and Devon proved that's not necessarily the case. I also think it was weird, and I don't care to bash either of them. Because I think there's a lot that was going on with their marriage and a lot that I put on the church for the dissolving of their marriage, how much Meagan kept constantly being attacked by the church for the past decade. There's a lot of things going on. But I will say, go ahead.
Yeah, hold your point. But I don't know. I kind of have a problem blaming the church. And don't get me wrong, Christians come for me for the way that I dress. Do you know what I mean? Like they come for me the way that I do.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, does it bother me? I have to ask myself, like, are they right? I always ask myself, are they right?
It's crazy because you're very modest. Like I've seen your pictures and I'm like,
this is my new Instagram, by the way. I've wiped like over 300 photos that. Yeah. However, modesty is, what do you call it? Like it's relative, right?
Yeah,
because
it's definitely.
On holiday, I'm not gonna wear a burqa. I'm gonna wear a bikini, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I would think that I'm modest. Other people will be like, "Why is she wearing that?" But so I don't really watch that. However, going back to my point, Christians say stuff to me, and I'm like, "Okay, it's your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion." The reason why I say that I wouldn't heavily blame the church is because, like we said, Devon Franklin and Meagan Good propped themselves up as an ideal of what a godly marriage looks like, right? So they kind of set themselves up as a standard, right? If Devon Franklin married Meagan Good without a book tour, without doing all these interviews, without all this stuff, I think people will have less things to say about her. But if you want to prop yourself up as an example, please be prepared for the backlash. Because people, and this is the thing, right? I talk about God in all of my videos. I'm not a Christian influencer. I'm not going to call myself a Christian influencer because I'm a human being. Okay. And I don't want every single thing that I do to be scrutinized by the lens of, isn't she a Christian? People know I'm a Christian by the work that I do, by the way that I speak, by my wisdom. But I'm not going around shouting, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. I don't prop myself up. If you see it good. But when you do that, it does invite a lot of criticism. But I'll let you finish your point.
Yeah, no, so I agree with that. And I don't think so the way that they did things in terms of them, so I guess it's hard for me to think of them propping themselves up because first off, they were both already famous. They were both already rich. So whatever they decided to do, everyone's gonna look at them. They didn't ask for a platform. They already had a platform. They merely were sharing their story. And because they're popular, they're famous, everybody listened. So I look at them slightly different in this instance that I see like Heather and Cornelius, where they were really aggressively kind of pursuing some type of like being ministers, being platforms, all of that. Divine and Meagan already had that. They just came together and shared their story. I do agree with what you're saying in terms of, yeah, when you put yourself out there, people are going to look at you. People are going to say things. They're going to have stuff to say. And I agree 100% what you said. I don't disagree at all. The flip side to that, though, is Christians will also, if they had have gotten married and they had have been Christians or still being Christian, people would have also said, why don't y'all use y'all's platform to talk about Jesus and talk about y'all's marriage? So no matter what, no matter on both sides, and it'll be different people. So the people who are like, man, y'all are trying to profit off of God and y'all's marriage. People on the opposite end would have been like, man, why aren't y'all using your platform to talk about Jesus and talk about your marriage more? And so either way, it's like you end up getting played, and a different side of the crowd is going to look at you. I'm sure that there are some Christians that would see you and they would say, hey, you should talk about Jesus more. You have a large following. You should talk about Jesus more. But then if, like you said, if you talk about Jesus more and you make your page a Christian influencer page, then they're going to nitpick more about how you dress, about your hair. They're going to be like, oh, you look like you care too much about how you look. So it's like almost no matter what we do, and I'm right there with you. I don't talk about God as much as I used to on my page because I wanted to talk about God just because I love God. But when I started talking about God and people were following me, automatically people would say like, is that alcohol in your cup in that post? Or people would say, oh, people would go to, if I was dating a woman, Lord forbid I posted her, people would go to her page and bash her. They would be into her comments saying, you need to cover up. You're dating a man of God. Like, y'all don't know me. I'm just on Instagram but guess what? If I was on Instagram and I never talked about God, like even today, people hit me up saying, why don't you talk about God as much as you used to? Because y'all attack me less now. And I got tired of y'all always attacking me.
And this is the point. And we're saying all this to say that it's not that we deny who we are, is that our lives need to speak more than social media and real life are two completely separate things.
Completely different things.
I can have my relationship with the Lord. I can have my relationship with God, and I believe in him, and every now and then mention him because God just rolls off my tongue like I'm talking about a friend. It's not like forced. However, if I try to brand myself as this person, and the thing about branding is we almost want it to be almost perfect. That's what branding is making everything look packaged and professional. You can't really package Christianity because you have to live it. It's not an aesthetic. Do you know what I mean? It's not a product. You live that, right? And it comes with ups and downs. My problem is when you try and hide the negatives. I remember Meagan Good and Devon Franklin went on a talk show and they were promoting their book, The Way, and they were saying that they spent the night together at each other's house.
Oh, man.
People in the comment were gasping like, no, oh my God. Do you know what? When I listened to that part, I was like, these guys struggle to wait till marriage. Because ain't no way these beautiful looking humans would lay in the bed without temptation. I'm sorry, I've been there. I've been there. I know it. You're like, no one is more super religious that you can. I mean, there are couples out there that say that they live together and they don't sleep together. That's between God. However, when they said that, I was like, that's when I kind of like, this whole waiting thing.
Yeah. I want to say something I want to back up and I want to say something to kind of protect you really quickly. Because I don't know all your followers. I don't know how they are. I'm sure most of them are wonderful people, but every now and again, there are a couple people that got something to say. And I want to say something to address anybody who's watching this video where you heard the comment that both of us said were about how we don't promote God. We don't treat ourselves like Christian influencers and are preaching Jesus. There are some people who would look at you or look at myself and say, oh, well, you should just deal with the criticism and deal with the hate and push past it. I want to say this for anybody who would say that or think that. Unless you have half the following that she has, you cannot say that. You cannot speak on that, because usually when people say, no, you should just be able to take all the attacks and all the heat, people who are, I've never seen a person ever say that who has like even a mild platform. It's always people, and this isn't shade, like everyone has value. Having social media followers doesn't make you cooler or have more or less value. We're just speaking practically. It is a huge difference between one or two people in your comments addressing you versus dozens, 20, 30, 40, 50 people every day, strangers constantly attacking you. If you are a person who doesn't have half the size platform she has, and you ever deal with depression, you ever deal with like feeling like, man, people are attacking me, amplify whatever you're feeling times 100. And then you can start to imagine the kind of heat that she deal, because you have like, I think three or four times the following I have, and I'm like, yo, this junk drove me crazy. I can only imagine what it's like for you, especially as a woman, and some of the things y'all have to deal with. So I just wanted to say that to protect you really quickly from anybody that will even jump in the comments of this video and try to address you on that part.
I really do appreciate that, and I know that a lot of people will say Christians this, Christians that, Christians are always talking judgmental or whatever. And I feel protective over Christians because that's the body of Christ. That's the part of the body that I'm with. That's my community. Do you know what I mean? However, some Christians, you don't make it easy for yourself because you have no idea. Like, just keep on living, get more successful, and then come and tell someone something. You just can't. And I think that even helps me to be less judgmental for people that have even more followers than that I do, that have more of a platform than I do. Because I'm like, whoa, like, let's not, because we all go through seasons. Like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I wasn't celibate and I was out here. I was living my life. Do you know what I mean? But I was doing that personally. That's my prerogative. And that has nothing to do with anybody. The fact that I chose to share it now is me wanting to help after I've gone through it. However, if people were to judge me while I were in that, like I wouldn't answer to that favorable. So we have to stop trying to play God in other people's lives.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we just need to be more loving, more full of grace. If people don't have what you have, or if I don't have what someone else has, then I need to understand. Like the Bible says, walk circumspectly. And what that means is when you see someone who's fallen into sin, it literally says, walk circumspectly, lest you too fall. Meaning when you see someone that's falling, that's messing up, literally, instead of you like looking at them, judging them, walk around their situation, get a better bird's eye view of their situation. Make sure you have a broader perspective before you go commenting on it. One of the things I say all the time is like, hey, if you don't love me enough to suffer with me, as the Bible says, long suffering being a fruit of the Spirit. If you don't love me enough to long suffer with me, then you don't know me well enough to try to criticize me or try to come at me and tell me something that I could do. If you don't have my number to hit me up and talk to me, then that means that we're not close enough for you to even slide in my DMs and try to check me on something.
Right.
And so we should have loving relationships before we start trying to critique each other.
Absolutely.
To pivot to Devon and Meagan, one thing that I do think, and this is kind of touching on this exact point that we're talking about right now, is how with them putting out a book, with them having this whole platform of them basically telling people, hey, this is what we did, you should do it too. It was extremely premature of them. It's like, yo, y'all just got married. Like you just got married and you're talking as if this is the way to a healthy, successful marriage. Y'all haven't even been married a decade yet. Same thing with Heather and Cornelius when they put out their first groups of books. It's like, bro, y'all are so new to this, and y'all are trying to talk about these things as if y'all actually know what's happening 10, 20 years down the pipeline. Right. And that's why even the Bible says older women teach younger women. There are a lot of younger women teaching younger women today. There are a lot of younger men teaching young men today. And so that's why I think it's dope that, as you said, you've lived some life, you've gone through some things, you know, you're not like in your early 20s and stuff like that, like kind of like Heather and Cornelius were when they were, you know, started doing everything that they were doing. You're at a place where you've had experiences. So you're speaking from experience more than anything else. Because the way I view things, I used to be that Jesus boy 10 years ago. Oh my gosh. I was the Jesus boy that was like, ladies, if a man isn't willing to do this for you, then he's not truly a man of God. I used to say all that stuff. I always think, I'm like, man, I wish I could go back and mentor myself back then. And I would have told myself, bro, take all these Jesus posts down. You are doing the most right now. You're judgmental. You on here trying to preach, but you're not actually like loving people in real life the way that you should. My bad. I'm going way off on a tangent.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think you was like that?
For a number of reasons. One, it was because it was basically taught to me that, oh, this is, you know, because it's like, oh, I'm a Christian and I'm on social media, so my social media page needs to be all about just Jesus all the time. Everything needs to be Jesus, Jesus, Jesus all the time, 24/7. And I find it interesting. I don't want to dive too much into what I was about to say, but it's many times I've found the people that I've known in my life who love God the most, that are doing better, whether we're talking with being abstinent, whether we're talking with them actually preaching the gospel to people in real life, not just on social media. They're the kind of people, if you went to their Instagram, you wouldn't even know they were Christian. Not because they post anything crazy. They
don't even have social media.
Yeah, like either they don't have social media, or on social media, they're not constantly like Jesus, 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 Jesus. Why? Because they're too busy living it out in their real life. You know, it's the difference between, you know, you don't see unless a billionaire has a team of people running their Instagram account. You're not going to see a billionaire being on Instagram giving a whole bunch of financial tips. Why? They're too busy. They're too busy actually handling that financial business. Likewise, whenever I saw, whether myself or other people who they were constantly on social media, always Jesus, 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 and I knew them behind the scenes because I live in Atlanta, and Atlanta has been the hub for Christians for a very long time now. I've known all the little Christian influencers in Atlanta. The majority of them stuff was a hot mess behind the scenes. Ooh. But the funny thing was that the people who either didn't have a platform or the people who didn't post about Jesus a lot on their page, they were the people who were not struggling and who were not making all these crazy mistakes behind the scenes. Because sometimes we treat our social media as, oh, this is where my Christianity lives. Not in real life. Like you said, not with me talking to my coworkers and me loving on them, not in me having grace, not in me being merciful, not in me being an encourager. Nope. My Christianity is me jumping online, making this post, telling everybody, yo, you should love God more. And it's like, yo, we need to get out of that.
That's pride though, isn't it?
Like, you said it's what?
It's pride though, right? It's like wanting to be an authority on something.
Yes.
You don't have enough, experience. And it's like when you first get saved, you're so zealous, like you will cuss everybody, tell people that, listen, if you don't get right, you're gonna get left. Like you're so overzealous. And then I think reality then sets in, because sometimes I wish like as soon as we get saved, we can go straight to heaven, because you're so on fire, you're so pumped and ready to like just tell everybody. But then you give it a few years, you'll see that, and it's not like you've lost your fire, is that the reality of your faith is now actually merging, and it's actually you're now living it. Yeah, you grow in grace, because when you first get saved, you haven't lived enough life as a believer to understand, like, yo, man, sometimes life hits you really hard. That's why the book of Lamentations is in the Bible. Literally, the whole book is them weeping. That's why in Psalms, we see David dealing with depression. We see him dealing with anger towards God. And David was a man after God's own heart. But despite all of that, David was angry at God. He questioned God. He was depressed. He said, God, kill all my enemies. He was like going crazy. And it's like,
well, why was he dealing with all this? Well, because in Psalms, we were reading a David who was maturing. You're able to watch him maturing through his walk with God and see him living life. So too often people get saved and then they think it's just like a person who starts their first business. Like when you start your first business and you're only a month into it, you think, oh, I'm going to make so much money. It's going to be so successful. Everybody's going to buy, everybody's going to book. But then you have that business go for 2-3 more years. And then you start to realize, yo, this business stuff is hard. And likewise, as a believer, like you said, it's not because your fire is gone. It's just maturity is set in. And the beautiful thing about that maturity is that that's what gives you grace for other people. You know, that's what allows you to have a deeper love, a deeper patience, because you realize you're a hot mess. You realize you jacked up. You realize other people have had to have grace for you. And so Jackie Hill Perry said a quote one time, and I thought it was a very dope quote. She's great with quotes.
Yeah, I love her.
She said that people who tend to be like, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but she said people who tend to be truly striving to do things God's way, they also tend to be the ones full of the most grace. And she said it's because they realize how hard it is. But when it's not hard for you, and that's usually people who are new to stuff, when it's not hard for you, you tend to not have grace for others because you think, why can't you do it like I'm doing? That goes back to the first thing we said in the conversation. Why Christian men look at Christian women and are like, why do y'all care so much about all these relationship conferences? Like all y'all just talking about marriage. And then Christian women are like, okay, when we date y'all, how come y'all struggling to not sleep with us? Like y'all seem so sex driven. And it's like, yo, we should really all strive to have grace for each other.
To be humble, because it's self-righteousness. And I think we can all say that there's a part in that time in our life when we were Christian that we were self-righteous. Even when I was doing celibacy for 11 years, there was a level of self-righteousness. Like, why can't you guys like just stop? Like, what's so hard to do?
Yeah,
I'm cool. But then obviously, like I even addressed in my last video, like I get it. And I was celibate in those 11 years outside of a relationship. I wasn't in a relationship. I was dating. So it's a lot different to be celibate when you are dating than when you're in a relationship. Which brings me smoothly on to the last part, the last question that I kind of want to ask you. You are dating a beautiful woman. I went on your page, I kind of stalked her. I didn't leave any negative comments. No, she's absolutely beautiful. How on earth do you do it? How on earth, you can keep it real.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you remain abstinent with someone that you are, I believe, very attracted to?
Yeah. And I'm very attractive. I would not date a woman unless I was very attracted to her. Right. Spoiler alert, ladies, that's the case for most heterosexual men. We care a lot about attraction. So there's a few so on one end, I know myself pretty well. Like I've been in relationships where we tried to wait and it did not work out. Most relationships we tried to wait and it didn't work out. I've been in relationships where we successfully waited. And I'm able to kind of like look and observe and realize, okay, like I know situations I put myself in. I know things that I did before where mistakes and things happen. So we have a set of boundaries for ourselves, for our relationship that we've set in place. They don't sound cute. They don't sound super romantic, but like we will definitely be at each other's house, be at each other's place. I know where the line is at for her. She knows where the line is at for myself. And for, I try to be careful because I don't want to paint a blueprint for ladies as to what a man should be like. But for us, it's, hey, I don't want to disrespect you past this point, because I know if I go past this point, if you go past this other point, then stuff might end up happening. Things might end up popping off like straight up. So that's essentially what we do. So we just know where our lines are at, our boundaries. We're not like cuddling up in the bed, doing all that extra. It's like, nah, because we gonna get to smashing like straight up. Like, and we know it. We talk candidly. We talk straight up. So no, we just have like a set of boundaries, but we also want to make sure that we are being romantic. We want to make sure that we are being affectionate, to a degree. So essentially we just laid out, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where you're at. And we're going to kind of stick to this thing. Also we have we got friends and other people that are in our lives. I have homeboys that'll hit me up and be like, hey, bro, what's going on? They like, bro, you ain't smashing, are you? But on the flip side, we have friends that also love us and have grace. So I know my homeboys and I, we're very open, whether it's like porn, whether it's like, yo, man, me and my girl smashed the other day, like the homies will be in the chat talking it up. And we don't, whenever stuff happens, we don't like, we're not like, oh, bro, you tripping, whatever. We encourage each other. We'll like pray and we'll like talk through like, all right, bro, what happened? Like, walk me through it type of thing. And it's really, I think that's the biggest thing I would say. It's not even her in our relationship. It's really that community more than anything else. One of the things that I do whenever I'm having sessions with women or men, and they're saying that the person that they're dating either, and it's usually not until after marriage, and I hate it that people tend to like not look at these flags until marriage. But one of the things that I ask people is, hey, sis, hey, bro, you want a person who's like this? Tell me about their friends. Tell me about their friends. And it's like, I have never, ever spoken to a woman where her man, either one, like basically I've never spoke to a woman where her man had 1,000 issues and he had a bunch of quality friends. That doesn't happen. The only time I've spoken to one woman where that's happened, and the thing was that their relationship was secret from like their, like, it's like his friends were like, the relationship was separate from his friends group, meaning she didn't have a relationship with his homeboys, you know. And this is some women can attest to this. This is usually where abuse happens. Whenever the man keeps the woman away from her family, keeps her away from friends, that's where abuse happens. That's where infidelity happens. A lot of things happen in secrecy and privacy, just like sin overall. So I always tell people, man, look at their friends, look at their community straight up. And that'll tell you the difference, not between whether or not this person's going to be perfect, but whether or not like they at least are being encouraged by other people to treat you proper, to do things the right way. So I actually think the biggest thing is my homeboys. It's straight up my homeboys. Like I have a couple homeboys that are virgins. Most of them are not virgins. A few of my homeboys are married. All of them love God. All of them are striving towards godly things. We all check each other. I have to take posts down off my social media sometimes, because even though I'm a grown man, I pay my own bills. I'm doing good out here. Praise God. My homeboys check me. They're like, bro, you wilding. You need to take that post off social media. Hey, bro, your girl look good. She looking fine. Bro, you know, people gonna have a problem with that. Like, we love you. If you want to keep it up, keep it up. But you know, people gonna start attacking you. They're gonna start coming for you. So I really give it to my community, my homeboys, more than anything else, because they love me no matter what I do, but they also gonna check me when I need to be checked.
That's very, very important, especially coming from a man saying that, because you're right. I was actually speaking to my friends, actually some guy friends 2 weeks ago, and we were saying the same thing, like, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. It's actually very, very true. Who initiated the conversation of celibacy? Was it you, or was it her, or was it more like a mutual discussion, an agreement? How did that conversation go when you first met?
So this is going to sound a little, it's not going to sound like, I guess, cute or attractive, but we didn't even, before we were even like in a relationship or romantically involved, like the way that I've learned to vet women, I don't even start dating a woman unless I know that we have certain similar boundaries. Right. It's like, I'm not even going to start talking to you about like, you probably won't even know I like you. It's like, I need to know certain things about you before I even ask you for your number, because we met on social media and we're in the DMs. Right. It's like, I'm not going to be sitting here asking you like, oh, are you waiting until marriage? Are you doing this, doing that while we're on date number 2, date number 3, especially as expensive these days be out here. It's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, because I look at my time. I look at my money, my emotions, I look at all of it like an investment. And it's like, I want to, like, when I see a woman, I want to get to know them enough to be able to determine, I think this is a good investment. I think investing my time, my resources, my prayers, all of that into this woman, I think she's a great woman for me to invest these things into. And one of the things I determine are like, hey, does this woman love God? I'm not going to try to flirt with a girl if I can't tell if she really, really loves God. So basically, we address all these points, and we've never had to have a conversation around, hey, are we going to wait to do? We never had to have that conversation. It was just like, we knew that what we were on before we even started dating. And so one of the things that I encourage, I encourage women is like, yo, know at least by first date, I always say like first, second phone conversation where the guy's head is at, because I think there are too many women who, and I understand it, sometimes women are afraid of scaring a guy off. They're like, I don't want to bring this up, it's gonna scare him off. Well, guess what? He's gonna leave either way. Like, you know, unless you're trying to get a bunch of free meals before you scare him off, he's gonna leave either way. Or if you wait until date 2, date 3, usually what happens is that at that point you have so much emotional investment into this man that now he usually can persuade you to go ahead and give it up. And so that's why I was like, yo, like, you know, that's why the Bible says, do not awaken love before it's time. Don't stir up your feelings for someone that you barely know where their head is at. Because by the time you finally have the real conversations and then you realize, oh, snap, he is not for this at all. Then that's when you start thinking, well, you know, maybe, like, you know, maybe. And it's like, don't play that game. Have those conversations early on. Same thing for guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I love Tony Gaskins. He's obviously, you know Tony Gaskins, right?
Yeah. We've done a couple speaking engagements, or we've been booked at similar events together.
Right. I agree with a lot of what he says. However, there's one thing that I don't agree with, and he says that you shouldn't even tell a man that you're waiting till marriage.
Well, why does he say that? Do you know why he says that?
I think he says something along the lines of, if you say that you're waiting till marriage and you don't wait, you've basically messed up your witness. It's better to, if he's like asking you questions, oh, when are we gonna, he says best to answer when I'm ready. But when I'm ready, I'm not ready. Like you can like go back and watch his videos. Yeah.
So I got respect for Tony. I put up a post recently and I actually took it off my page because it addressed Tony. And I think people thought that like I had some beef or something with him. And I took it off my page because I was like, yo, I ain't got no beef with the man. I was just trying to whatever. So I have respect for him. So I will say this. That's Cap. And respectfully, so he's knowledgeable. He's a great man, great. And I've done speaking engagements. I've spoken to men behind the scenes that I could tell that they really don't love God. I could tell they cheat on it. It's stuff going on. He's legit. He's a really quality dude. He's not no Derek Jackson out here. But I would say no, that's very unwise, because stringing a man along who wants to have sex and thinking you can just keep telling him like, oh, when I'm ready. And he's just going to be like, okay, cool. All right. Like, no, you're talking about like, it's again, we're talking the kind of men that most women want. It's like a man who probably has options, not meaning he's entertaining those options, but if he's the kind of man you want, he's the kind of man a lot of women want.
Right.
That kind of man, if he's competent, if a man is successful, if he's driven, then he's a man who's smart. He's competent. He's able to realize games. He's able to realize this girl's playing games. This girl is trying to, and what'll start to happen is if you're not honest with him, most men, if you're not honest with them, they're going to think you're just trying to manipulate them. They're going to think, oh, she's trying to get a bunch of free dates, a bunch of free meals. She's trying to have me buy her gifts, spend money on her. And when you're not telling a man your why, we'll start to come up with whys. Right. We'll start to think, oh, she giving it to some other dude. And I'm the one that's like, I mean, think about all the music you hear about today, where there are men who are spending money on a girl, doing these things, and she's only sleeping with another dude behind the scenes.
Right.
Men have experienced that. Like we have to stop the games. We have to be honest. We have to be straight up. And again, I don't think his suggestion was for women to play games. What I'm saying is that the outcome to men is the same. It's like, yo, this is games right now. This is games straight up.
And I'll say to that point, and I think I definitely got it right, because I've heard him say this a few times. And even there's people come to my channel and said, you shouldn't tell people that you're celibate and da, 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 da. However, I do feel like Tony Gaskin has been out of the game for 10 plus years. And that's no shade to him. He definitely has great advice, especially for marriage and things like that. But the climate is different. You have to be straight up about what you're doing, like you said, because you don't want to leave room for games and suspicion and all that kind of stuff. I think it's very important. Yeah. Last question to you, to encourage those who are dating, because I said that I'll get a guest on to talk about dating while celibate, because I'm not. My last question to you is, how long have you been with your girl for?
We've been together since May of last year.
Okay, I'm not good at maths, but okay.
Yeah, I'm not good either. That's why I was just like, I'll say when we were together. So it's about 4 months shy of a year. So I guess 8 or 9. We're about almost 9 months in.
Okay, sure. Okay, so in those 9 months, have you guys fallen? And if so, how did you get back up?
Yeah, definitely. No, we've we've definitely had sex within the last 9 months. It's so funny. This is my first time saying that publicly. The way that we've gotten up. So again, I've been in relationships before. I've seen stuff happen before. The way we got up was that we didn't grill each other over it. We weren't like, oh, I can't trust you. We had conversations, and that's when we were like, all right, look, we need to set boundaries. And that was why the funny thing is that we never had to have a conversation about what our standards were, because we already knew what they were. We just knew it was like, okay, cool. We need to set boundaries. Did this, did that. We shouldn't have did those things. So we just had straight up conversations about where those boundaries were. And then we ultimately stuck to them. And since then, it's been like months, whatever. I try to be very careful on like addressing how long going without doing something, because again, people start to feel like their worth is built up in how long they've gone since their last sin. Yeah, and it's like, oh, I'm less Christian because I sinned 2 weeks ago, versus if my last time falling would have been 2 years ago. Right. Newsflash. Once we finished doing that, we were just as much loved by God and all of that, right? As now, since it's been a while since we've done anything, right? So we had grace for each other, and we just were being practical. Like, we need to lay out certain boundaries. Laid them boundaries out. I told my homeboys, she told her homegirls. We had that accountability, and we just rocked with that. And we've like stuck to those boundaries. Every now and again, we start kind of pushing that line with those boundaries. And then we're like, we have straight up conversations. All right, we playing around. Like, we got to chill out type of thing. So
I love that. And I love that you can just be honest. And I think that's what Christians need. We need some people just to be open and honest and transparent about what we're experiencing. And it's kind of funny what you said about like, people feel like, oh, it's better if you did it 2 years ago other than 2 weeks ago. Like, even when in my last video, I talked about last time I had sex was like 4 months ago. To me, that I had to say it like that, because I had to show people that it's okay, even if it was 2 weeks ago or 2 days ago. Sorry. Even if it was 2 days ago, like, there's still grace and there's still mercy for us. So thank you so much, Cyrus, for giving me your time. I'm going to put all of your information and your links on the screen now and in the description box as well. I definitely would love to have another conversation with you about, I don't know, I have so many ideas.
I definitely want to.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much. And anything else you want to say to the people?
Man, have grace for yourself, have grace for others. Look at God as the only blueprint, the only true standard. Have good community, know how to vet people when you're dating, vet with wisdom, but don't create ridiculous standards and then demand people bend to those standards.
I love it. Thank you so much, Cyrus. Thank you very much. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation I had with Cyrus. Make sure you guys check him out. I'll leave all his information and direct links in the description box below. I hope you guys enjoyed this intimacy series. Please leave your comments, your questions in the comment section below. Let me know as well, who would you like to see on the channel? Who would you like for me to have a conversation with? I think it's so important that we're transparent, open and honest. And I think that it's super important that we let go of shame. There should be no shame, because if you're experiencing something, someone else also experiencing it. I want this channel to be a safe space where we can be open, real and honest with what we're experiencing, what we're going through. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure you guys comment below, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more of this. These videos are going to be out on Wednesday and Thursday, and on Sunday I'm going to have my usual pep talk videos encouraging you guys to self-development. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.